Hello and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. This is the drive game series, and in this episode we're looking at drive from a start line position. So this can be a weakness for many people for a number of reasons. Most commonly the reason being is the dog is worried on the start line. So the dog sits on the start line, sets up, and for whatever reason, maybe there's dogs behind them, maybe there's noise, or they're concerned about the handler moving away. And so they're worried about that start line, so they don't power out from the start line. Maybe they start a bit, oh, I'm not sure, look, and then they take the first jump, and then they build up the speed. We don't want that. We want that dog powering from the word go. Another factor with drive from start lines is the dog that breaks its weight continuously. So you get this stutter. The dog breaks the weight, the handler goes, oh, do I keep going, or do I set them back up? And because that's depending on what the handler wants to achieve at any given time on a course. And so it might be a case that the handler then sets the dog back up. That instantly takes that dog's drive down a little bit. It might not matter too much, but then the dog, maybe it breaks it a second time, and it builds up into this pattern, a cycle. So there's two things we want to make sure we've got when we're talking about start line drive. First of all, we want to make sure our dog is capable of powering out of that start line as quickly as it's possible for it to do. We also want to know that dog will hold its position until we ask it to go, because that way we're then building up that confidence. We've also got to look at the factor of environmental conditions that could be impacting our dog. If we've got a nervous dog, then it's not good to keep pushing our start lines to the point where that dog is so nervous it doesn't want to even get on the start line. That is a problem. You know, some dogs don't even want to get on a start line because they're so worried about a start line. In which case we need to say, right, our dog is worried, we need to be fair to that dog. In general, I like to have a start line with her, a weight, because it just gives me a chance to focus and get ahead. But I am aware that at times she is worried. She's noise sensitive. She can be worried if other dogs are noisy or tugging behind her. There can be lots of factors. So if I realise that she's worried, what I will do is I won't go too far ahead. I might set her up there and I only go as far ahead as this jump, or I might go just beyond, just as I won't push her too hard when I know that I could get up to that jump. And in our training field where she's confident, I know we can do that. But I will do that and I'll make sure she's settled and confident. The other thing I might do, if I thought she was really worried about the environment, I've had that at a show beginning part of this year, I think it was, or last year, where there was a rattly door right at the start line, and she was so worried. She was like, and she did break her weight, and I realised, I shouldn't have gone too far ahead. So the next time I was in that ring, I didn't go too far ahead, and I was a bit more forgiving about her start line behaviour because I knew she was worried. So it's all building up those factors. With a nervous dog, how do you overcome that? I think in many ways it's just about ring experience. I think it's about the handler being very conscious about what is going on around the dog at that start line. I had a situation with Sparrow where she was on a start line, and she had really good weights at that point, but she was on a start line. I'd walked off and two dogs had a fight, just a little mini spat behind her. And I didn't realise, but one of the dogs was growling at her. And she went completely flat. You know, I've been left here in this way. She held her weight, bless her heart. But when she started, you could see she was all shut down. And after that, she didn't want to go on a start line. So you need to be conscious of your start lines. What is happening in that environment around the dog? Is there something that's going to put your dog off? Is going to upset your dog? It's always great if you can be somehow away from the queue so that there's that distance between your dog and the other dogs. You need to be aware of that. And you can't always control that environment, so instead you have to control your start line behaviour in the sense that you might not be able to go as far ahead as you want to go. But you know, you have to live with that. During these exercises, we've done lots of restrained starts. So we've held the dog and released them. The reason being for this is that when you do that, when you put in that resistance on the dog, they automatically start to pull away from you, and they're more driven and focused. It builds up that arousal. So that's been good because that's what we want in these games. It's less about the start line in these situations, but the games we want them to drive over the jumps. When we're doing exercises where we do need them to wait, we obviously then need to build in that element of drive from the start line. So the first thing I want you to think about is the position your dog is in from that start line. Do they do a down, sit or stand? There are various arguments about the different positions. What I can tell you from our own little research we've done is that when you get to a certain distance back from the start line, say about 5 meters, there's very little difference in time and speed from whichever position you choose. We did this with 3 different dogs. We tested all 3 positions, so sit, down and stand, and we found at 5 meters the difference between how they got over that first jump and powered through was negligible. If you're closer, then the sit becomes your preference, but ideally you're always starting further back. We never want to start our dog on a start line this close, unless we're doing jump grids, but we're not talking about jump grids. This is too close for my dog to start. They've got no speed going into that jump. They've literally got to jump from a sit or a stand. It's a standing jump. That is automatically going to make that jump less driven. We want our dog to be back here. Good girl. Sit. So that they can now, I mean, she can definitely get 1 stride in there. She could probably get 2 before she's over that jump. She's up to speed, so she's driving into that first jump. That's what we want. Now, of course, good girl, that is again a factor when you're thinking about your start line. My environment, what is my environment around? If she's back there, it could be there's dogs quite close. If you're going over here, you've got to think how much distance you're putting between yourself and that dog, and how that is affecting your dog's confidence on the start line. Is she confident with me here? If I start getting to here, is she gonna, well, she broke, but is she gonna be worried? You need to factor that in. And sit. And I can tell you this, the start lines you get in training are not likely to be the start lines you get in competition, at least initially, because your dog will be more uptight, you'll be more uptight, they'll be more like nervous, that anxiousness, that arousal goes up, so you're not going to get that same start line until you build up through experience, keep building up that confidence. Now, we also talked about the dog that regularly breaks his start line. That is a hard one, and it really is a case of reinforcing your weights in so many situations that your dog is solid in their weight. That means coming out of the car, coming out of the back door, waiting for food, to be given their dinner, things like that. Anywhere you can fit in a weight to build up that solid position. The other thing I want to show you is think about your behaviour at a start line. So my start line is I ask her to queue up. Good girl. I'm going to walk over this side this time so you can see me. I cue with this hand, wait. And I'm keeping this hand up. This means you're standing there, you're waiting. Now, this is the thing I see people do wrong all the time. Go! Good girl. I'm rewarding that because I told her to do that. But what did I do wrong? It's this arm. The second I put this arm up, I said go. Dogs are clever, they're smart. They pick up on little nuances of behaviour. So before you know it, that dog is going on that arm signal, not your verbal. And I'm going to be honest, I got lazy in the summer and I was doing that a lot. And guess what? I couldn't get I lost my weights a bit, didn't I? Wait. Setting myself up. Ready to go. I'm going to lift my arm, but I'm not saying anything. I'm looking at her, make sure she's in position. Go. Good girl. And that is how you're going to keep proofing your start line so you don't end up with a start line that they constantly break. I see it so often that people, they go, oh, my dog breaks its start line. They're waving their arms all like this. Oh, my dog breaks its start line. And then the second they release them, that's the instant they do. And I go, well, yeah, your dog's going to break your start line because you put your arm up and you say go. And so they think that that's the signal to go. Sit. And we all do it. But once you know that's how it works, there's no point getting cross with your dog for that. The other factor I see is the dog that breaks in competition but doesn't break in training. Again, that's going to be about arousal levels. And again, The best thing you can do is, if you've got a dog that breaks in competition, is the same with a dog that's lacking confidence. Don't go too far ahead. Build success. So you might start here on your first run. You might say, oh, okay, I'm going to get round the hunt. And yeah, you're perhaps going to have to sacrifice your course, because you may say, well, if I don't go ahead, I won't get to where I need to be later on. Possibly you will, but that start line is so important that it's no point. If you're going to let your dog do the first jump, then reset them up, you're already eliminated. So why not start further back and build up that? Build up that time, that distance, that duration, until you can get right out. Go! Tunnel, tunnel, tunnel! Good girl. So you're standing there, you're going, well, you've gone on a lot about having a good start line. What's that got to do with drive from a start line? Well, that's got a lot of things to do with the drive from the start line, because the way you're going to have drive at that moment is out of confidence, and because your dog is ready and raring to go from that start line, but also because they're not releasing too early and going, oh, I shouldn't have released, hang on. Or they power over the first jump and, oh, actually I'm going to reset you because I didn't want you to do that. It's all about building that. If you watch Swift on the start line, let's set her up so I can show you. Swift. Okay. Good girl, wait. Now watch her on the start line. She knows we're going to be going in a minute. She's focused on me. She's primed. She may even do a little, oh, I'm ready to go. Go! Tunnel! Good girl. And that holding her for a second there on that start line to make sure we've got connection first off, to make sure she's looking at me and where I want her to go. But it also builds that slight level of arousal because she's waiting for me to play that game. She knows we're about to go. She can see I'm ready. All her attention is zoned in on me. Bam! The power goes on. I'm off. That is what we want. So, how can we build up start line drive in a dog that can do the weights but doesn't power out of the drive, but power into the start line? This is the sort of iffy one, because there could be so many factors about why your dog isn't powering. For some dogs, it's simply a case that they're not too keen on the starts of a course because they don't get much value for them. They prefer the ends of a course because they know they're building up to the reward. In which case, what we really need to do is build value for powering off that start line, holding that weight and powering off that start line. Now, in this instance, she's obviously running towards us, so it's that chase moment. If I was doing this with a tuggy toy, I would reward from my hand and tug. If I'm using a ball, I'm going to throw it. And because I want her to power past me, I don't want her to slow down. So I'm not going to just drop it, I am going to throw it. So we probably will put the tunnel in as well and go right down, because it'll just make life easier. But, well, perhaps I won't, because I want to show you what to do. So she's in her weight. I want her to power over this start line. I want her to think that this is the best thing ever. Look at her, she's ready. Go! Get it! So, good girl. Yeah, so I'm working on one jump and I'm asking her to drive as hard as possible out of that start line. Oh, sorry, my maid, where are you? And to a thrown toy rather than a dead toy. If I show you what I mean, wait. Just look at the difference if I drop the toy here rather than throw. Go! Get it. Can you see how she was slightly slower? She didn't power through. And obviously we've done a lot of luring with our drive games, but in this instance, because I want her to really burst off that start line, I want something a bit more, so I'm going to throw it in. Okay, ready? Start. Good girl. Wait, and you could play with the distance that you leave her, with your dog. Now I'm going to be, obviously I've got a tunnel here which is slightly awkward, which is why I'm going to stand here so she hopefully will drive to me. Go! Now, to be fair, I've expected that to happen. But my point is, you're doing something and you're building that speed, that oof into it. So you do this on one jump, build up to 2 jumps, build up to a line of jumps. So if I now set off and do this whole sequence, obviously it depends how many obstacles you can fit in on your weight, how confident your dog is with your weights. I like at least 3 obstacles if I can help it. Wait, I have done 100-foot recalls with her, so I know I can get her to 100 foot if I need to. Wait, you wouldn't, obviously, in competition. Wait. Okay, so I'm here, I'm setting up, she's focused on me. Go! Tunnel! Go! Good girlie, good girl. So you see, we burst off that start line, we were going from the word go. And that's what we want. So I would suggest that with your start line drive, always be thinking about your start line whenever you're doing an exercise or training. Always be thinking about your start line. Always be thinking about proofing your start line and building up that speed. And if you ever get a situation where your dog is not powering over that start line, go back, get it, reward that start line fast. Good girl. And then go back to doing the full sequence to keep that driving. But yeah, as I say, remember your other factors, which are the environmental factors, what's going on around your dog, how that might be influencing your start line, and also your dog's self-confidence and your behaviour at a show. If you're more anxious, or if you try to push your start line when your dog's not ready for it, that's going to be a factor in that behaviour. Okay, so I hope that's given you some ideas of how you can make your dog power from the start line. Hopefully you've enjoyed this Everyday Canines video, and if you have, you might like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, or you can check us out on Instagram and Facebook. And I hope to see you all again very, very soon.